that I don't think it's a situation where he just goes in and he's the starter without any competition.
Troy, what stood out to you about Chan Gailey as a play caller, and were you surprised to see him come out of retirement to work with Brian Flores?
Surprised, yeah. I think Chan works hard at it. I believe that they're going to be able to run the football. That's Chan's. That's his mantra. He's gonna run it one way or another, and if that's the style you like, then you're going to be pretty pleased with the offense.
Troy, you ever think about it? When you talked about Shanahan as a play caller, as an offensive guy, is this as good as it gets between Reed and Shanahan?
Yeah.
And what they can do, and what do you enjoy about these guys?
Well, I like the creativity that they have. I love what I've seen of Kyle Shanahan. I get a chance to watch his games more than I do Andy's. I followed Andy, of course, when he was with Philadelphia with us having the NFC package. I've had Kansas City once in each of the last 2 years with the Thursday night game. I watched Kansas City, and it seems like it seems that there's an offense and there's a play called, and yet they all kind of put their own little stamp on how exactly that play is run. And I find it pretty fascinating, and I think the players have really responded to that, especially Pat Mahomes.
You said,
and I see it with Travis Kelce and the chemistry that they have, and so they've got. I mean, it's an Olympic race team that they have out there at wideout, and they utilize that. I mean, they really take advantage of it. So I think that's good coaching. I think that's the key. It's a different offense. It's called differently than when Alex Smith was there. That's not a negative. You're playing to the strengths of different guys, and I think Andy does that as well as anybody. When you look at his history and what he's been able to do for quarterbacks, you can look at Donovan McNabb, Alex, Pat Mahomes, but you also need to look at guys like A.J. Feely, who came in off the bench, and what he was able to get out of them. And he's done a great job, even more when he came in, and they were able to play decent football when Pat went down. So, but Kyle comes at it a little bit differently, and I really have great respect for what he does. It reminds me a lot of our teams, the offenses that I grew up in, and that style has won a lot of football games over the history of our sport, and it has here in recent years with. The Rams have run that system. It was really more from Kyle Shanahan than McVay took it. We see it a little different style, but as far as the run game in Seattle, I think things are starting to trend back. Baltimore, different, of course, but I think we're starting to see we had this pass-happy league, and I think teams are starting to morph back into, hey, we need to run the ball more and be more physical.
As far as just talking about your Cowboy offenses, the commitment to the running play action, obviously they're not novel concepts, but when he marries things together, as far as
he does it better than we do. It's more diverse, it's more complex, but the running game, they've got play action off of all of those runs, and the run game's very complex. I mean, it's not just basic. I thought it was interesting when we talked to him last week. His whole life, he grew up with his dad and Alex Gibbs, the famous O-line coach. He's just run the wide zone running game, the zone scheme, and that's what they did. And Mike in Denver had a ton of backs who went for 1,000 yards. All these lower round picks and some free agents, and so he heard that, he believes in it. But then, I think there became a point where he kind of got tired of hearing about this outside zone running game. And he provided some things off of that. So now they run just about all of the different run schemes that there are to be had. And then off of that is a lot of play action. He's really smart. He goes into a game with 2 or 3 different game plans. And they start the game, they find out how the defense is going to play them, and they throw a couple of them out, and they lock in on the one they're going to run, and off they go. And he does a great job.
You talked about it's time for the Cowboys to win again. Is McCarthy the answer? Can he get them to win again?
Is McCarthy the answer?
Yes.
Well, we're going to find out. There's a lot of people that hope he is.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Mike. I kept saying that. I loved him when he was in Green Bay. I loved the way he approached it with us. He was always honest. I liked his style. I liked the way his teams were prepared, and his resume speaks for itself. So I know he's been working on putting together a staff, and I say it often, but I believe if he's allowed to go and run this team the way that he has in Green Bay, I think he'll have success. I mean, I don't think they could have hired a better coach.
You surprised that Kellen Moore's calling plays, or he's allowing Kellen?
You know, I was a little bit when that was announced, because I know how much Mike likes calling the plays, and we were covering him in Green Bay when he had given up play calling, and then when he took it back, he said that he would never give up play calling again. So I was surprised, but I think within that, it's a real compliment to Kellen Moore, and there's no way, knowing Mike the way that I do, he's not just simply handing it off to Kellen Moore and then he will no longer have a role within that offense. I mean, he's going to be in it day in and day out. He'll be very active, of course, during the games, during the practices. So, yes, although Kellen has been reported, will be calling the plays, Mike will have a heavy hand in it.
Thoughts on Jason being the offense coordinator and staying in football?
Yeah, I think it's a great move by him. There was talk that maybe he might sit out a year. I think the Giants I think they've got the foundation of a really good offensive team. And, you know, when you have a runner like they have in Saquon Barkley, and they've got a good young quarterback in Daniel Jones, and, you know, that offensive line, knowing Dave Gettleman, he's going to continue to build in the trenches. And just by another year under their belt, they're going to be better. I think that whoever comes in as offensive coordinator, and they played some pretty good football on that side of the ball as it was, but whoever comes in is going to be the guy who reaps a lot of the credit for what happens. It's an organization that, as you guys know, Jason loves. You know, outside of the Cowboys, there's no other place he'd rather be. I think it was a great landing spot for him, and I think it's an opportunity for him to show that he is a great coach, he's a great offensive coach, and I think it's the quickest way for him getting back to becoming a head coach again.
You know, last year
you played shortstop growing up, I understand, and both of these quarterbacks did. Most, in fact, in the last 50 years of the top quarterbacks, Hall of Famers, or even the current ones today, did that.
Yeah.
How did it help you, and how do you think it helps both Jimmy and Patrick in this game?
I don't know that baseball really helped me all that much in football. But what it did, I talk about it a lot. I think that we've gotten to where our kids, they've been asked to play one sport at a very young age. My girls kind of went through that. And then they're playing club, and then it's year round for one sport. And had I have done that, I would not have played in the NFL. I would not have played college football. There was a time in ninth grade that I was ready to give up football, and I was a baseball player. That was my love, and I was going to just play basketball and then focus on baseball. And at the last minute, I decided to stick with football and play. And as I matured, then I became better at football than I was at baseball, and it opened up a lot of doors for me. So that's the biggest thing. But I do believe when you watch Patrick Mahomes, you definitely see the influence. You know, almost he almost wants you to see the influence. I think. You know, I mean, some of the no-look stuff and the sidearm, and you know, he's a heck of an athlete. He's you know, he's one of these guys who he can throw the ball from anywhere on the field to anywhere else on the field, and he knows it, you know, and he's got great confidence, and maybe some of that comes from baseball. Maybe some of the things that he has confidence in his arm, maybe that developed in baseball. I know that baseball meant a lot to him growing up.
Well, I was talking about the Steelers for a minute.
I do. I'm a big fan of Dax, and I have been since I signed him out of college. You won't find a better leader. You won't find a better locker room guy. You won't find a guy who works harder to be great. He handles everything with real class, and I love him. You know, I mean, there's nothing. You'll never hear me say anything negative about him. I think, you know, there were times he was a project when he came into this league. Hadn't run play action, hadn't taken snaps from underneath center. And here he is his rookie year, and he's doing all that. He leads him to a 13-3 record, and his numbers were outstanding. And I watch him this year compared to where he was a year ago, and it's night and day. You know, his anticipation and reading coverages and getting the ball out, he improved a great deal. So Hey, I can spend anyone's money as well as anybody. I'm good at that, and I've been wanting to spend Jerry's money for a long time, and I keep saying that. And I don't know why he hasn't been signed. I'm sure there's good reasons, but I would be surprised if that deal's not done.
Well, I'll talk about the Steelers last year.
Is there a number of throws or games you think before it slows down in general for that?
Number of throws? Well, there's a 10,000 rule. I don't know that I'd go that far. For some, it takes that long, but no, I don't. I think it's a product of really who you have coordinating the offense, the players you have around you. I think these quarterbacks. Yeah, no question. And I could have labored for another several years in what we were doing my first 2 years, and I would have gone down as one of the all-time busts. It's the way it happens. And I've said before that there's a lot of, I believe, really good quarterbacks that have left this league with that tag, that had they have been in better situations with better coaches, better organizations, people who know how to draft, people who know how to develop. There's so much that weighs in on a quarterback's success. And when you do get a chance to get with a Mike Holmgren, a Norv Turner, a Sean Payton, a Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, Andy Reid, we see the results of that. And I've always felt there are far better coaches or far better quarterbacks historically over our game than there has been offensive coaches.
Troy, do you think that